Hi everyone, I'm Karla and welcome to my YouTube channel, Karla K Art. I am an artist that specializes in hand-painted silk. Today I'm taking a little break from hand-painted silk to play with some alcohol inks. I've done alcohol ink work on Yupo paper, which is a type of non-absorbent paper, but I was recently told if you put the product Kilz on canvases, it will make the canvases non-absorbent and you can play with the alcohol inks on them. You can also use gesso, but gesso is a little more expensive and I just hadn't wanted to spend my practice money that way, but I do happen to have some Kilz hanging around the house. It's a stain blocker that you can put on your house walls. And so I painted some canvases, some square canvases, medium-sized canvases. I think they're 14 by 14 square, and some little tiny canvases. They're 4 inches square. And I'm going to play with the alcohol inks on them. I don't have any rubbing alcohol, which is what people often use to dilute the alcohol inks or to play with the alcohol inks. However, I do have some acetone, some fingernail polish remover, and I've used that in the past with, I don't know, I think success. So I'm going to play with that today, and I'm just inviting you along for the ride because I really do not know much about alcohol inks other than they're pretty and I can mix a bunch of colors together and it's kind of fun. So hang along for the ride. I hope you enjoy the video. So I have already primed all of these canvases with the Kilz 3. You can see the can on the table there. I'm using that larger house painting brush there on the right. And I just went over them twice, once up and down, and then the second time left and right, and let them dry thoroughly. And then next I'm going to start applying these alcohol inks. These are Tim Holtz Ranger alcohol inks. They're the only ones I've used. I have a few, one set of regular red, yellow, and blue, and then one set of some pearlescent colors that I've just been gifted in the past, and I'm just using those up on these canvases. And at first I tried to use my breath to kind of blow them around. They weren't flowing as quickly as they do on the Yupo paper, and part of that could be because it's easy to lift the Yupo paper and manipulate it, and it's a little harder to get it to flow across the canvas because the canvas has a bit of a texture. So then next I tried the hairdryer, and that didn't work so well. So then I put on some of the fingernail polish remover, and that certainly diluted it and allowed it to flow a little bit more. And then I pushed it around with the paintbrush a little bit. I would note that this paintbrush, I had to throw it away after this use because the alcohol inks got in it and they just didn't want to come out. It got all sticky and it was kind of messy. Because I like to save as many art supply dollars as I can, I took the extra off the first one and dumped it on the second canvas, and then started to push it around with the cup. I'd watched on a couple of different YouTube videos that people had used a protractor, a plastic protractor, to push it around, and I just didn't have one handy, but I did have the plastic cup, so I kind of used it to push the alcohol inks around to create a bottom base that when I put extra alcohol inks on top of it, the reaction was a lot faster and I didn't have to worry about necessarily pushing the inks around with my breath or with the hairdryer. And I just started to play with colors. And if you've ever used alcohol inks, you know they kind of boil on the surface. They mix together to make tertiary, third colors. You have to be careful because if you get too much on, the canvases can get kind of dark, and that's why you see me putting the fingernail polish remover on and then spreading the excess ink to the next canvas, just because I didn't want to waste it. So as I go along here, I'm trying to keep the colors lighter and trying to keep that black from appearing, but I so like to use color, and I can be kind of heavy-handed at it, that I make that dark color a lot. So I have to work with the rubbing alcohol to lighten it up. The cup was really effective, and then I realized it was getting on my hands. It was going to get on my hands. It was going to get really messy with me having to lift these canvases. So I went and got some blue gloves. But you can see how the light area, the yellow area in the left piece, I just loved that, and I wanted to create more of that in the other pieces as well. And there you go, you can see I'm running the excess off, but you can see how pretty the colors are that are remaining there on the canvas. And by adding the fingernail polish remover, it just kind of pushes that black area off and allows those lighter colors to show up and be really brilliant. And that's what I am seeking in my use of alcohol ink. And there I am taking the cup to push the excess ink off. And it created some really neat layers. When I'm working on paper, I don't get the opportunity really to do quite as many layers. It turns to black really fast, but the canvases really allowed me to push the ink around. And I'm not sure, I don't think it was really the canvas, I think it was the Kilz that I'd put on the canvas that allowed me to really push the inks around and kept them from drying very quickly. They stayed wet for a very long time, which I found was very advantageous for the way I work. So I just kept pushing the excess ink around, and of course I'm using red, yellow, and blue, so it's kind of making a purple tone in these dyes, and so that's why the base of all of these canvases end up really being a shade of purple. But as I kept going, just kept layering on the different colors, and because the base was such a light color in the 3 canvases that are closest to you, their designs stayed a lot lighter versus the first 3 designs where it took me a little while to figure out I needed to create that base coat in order to get the play with the alcohol inks that I like to get on the Yupo paper. So because of that, the first 3 ones I did are a lot darker than the last 3 ones. And the little tiny canvases, which I'm about to start here in a second, are actually the lightest of all, and you'll get to see that in the end when I display them. But people do use paintbrushes and stuff with the alcohol inks. That's not my interest. I'm more interested in creating a background that you would then put a design on top of. That's my surface design background, kind of peeking out there. So I might do this type of a background or try to mimic it behind a foreground in a silk painting, because my specialty is hand-painted silk. So just keep adding the colors. Love the way the yellow interacts. I used 7 colors all total. There's red, yellow, and blue, and then the pearlescent had a pre-mixed green and a pre-mixed pink and a pre-mixed yellow and a pre-mixed blue. But for the most part, I didn't have very much of those left. For the most part, I just used the big red, yellow, and blue that I had, the newer ones. And you can see me just continuing to mix. I don't know what other types of chemicals you could use to create further play with these. For instance, when I'm hand painting silk, I can work with salt and I can work with hydrogen peroxide. I didn't have any rubbing alcohol for this experiment, and I am going to go ahead and buy some rubbing alcohol to use with the rest of my alcohol inks to see exactly what that does, to see how that plays out, because in this particular piece, as I said in the beginning, I'm using fingernail polish remover. There is a lot of smell to using alcohol inks, so you want to use it in a very well ventilated area. They are very flammable, so you want to use them a distance away from fire and heat. I do know that some people use little torches and alcohol in order to create further designs in their alcohol ink pieces. That's not an interest for me at this point, so I'm not doing that in these particular pieces. The only thing I'm using is the alcohol inks and the acetone. I have tried to put some water on the inks before just to see what would happen, and it made them very sticky, and I didn't appreciate that. Now here is the magic part for me today, is I had some of these Kirkland wet wipes. They're not alcoholic, they're just baby wipes, and I discovered that they would lift off the extra black without removing the undercolor, and that was pretty exciting for me. I learned that I could just wipe off the black and it would not remove the inks underneath. or scraping it off, I could just wipe it off. And that was really cool. And I learned that I could wait for that to dry, and it has ingredients in it, I think, that make the baby wipes actually dry really fast on surfaces, that within a few minutes I could go over with another color and create another layer of colors on top that were not quite reactive with the layer underneath. So I could create multiple layers, and that was pretty cool. Once I figured that out, I started to play even more with the colors. And I suppose that was a little bit wasteful on the alcohol inks at that point, because I was just kind of playing to see what would happen. But really enjoyed it. And you can see here for tools, I just have the alcohol inks. They're applicators. You want gloves on your hands. I had some Q-tips out there if I thought I would need them. I had a hair blow dryer and my breath, of course. And here I am showing off the finished pieces. They're incredibly bright. I didn't go all the way over on the edges, although I used with the baby wipe, I used them on the edges as well. So they have, while you can't see it here, a bit of a patina. I didn't actually coat the edges with the alcohol inks. If you wanted a really neat edge, you'd have to stick these in a frame or apply a further edge to them. I plan to put resin or a spray over them.
Hi everyone, thanks for watching my video about alcohol inks on canvases. I hope you had a good time watching it. I'm always pushing myself to kind of stretch my artistic boundaries and try some of the latest trends, at least on a small basis, to push my artistic abilities and expand myself, get outside my comfort zone, I guess you could say. Let's see. If you like this video, please press the thumbs up button. It's in the lower right hand corner. And if you want to subscribe to find out whenever I release a video, please hit the subscribe button below. It's free to subscribe. It just allows you to get notifications of when I put out new videos. And if you hit the down arrow button in the right corner, it will open up a new screen that will take you to all of my links. So it'll take you to my Etsy link where I sell my originals, and indeed I'll be selling the originals of the pieces I made today. It will take you to my Fine Art America link where I sell prints of my work, including face masks and yoga mats and bags and that type of thing. And a link to my website where I have a gallery of many of my original pieces. And you can contact me if you're interested in classes and that whatnot. Hope you had a good time today. Hope you subscribe, and I will see you next time in the art studio. Bye for now.